Welcome to Mo's Market Pulse. I'm your host, Sara Mokaram, founder of Mo Digital Solutions, where we help businesses hit their revenue goals and thrive. On this podcast, we talk with industry leaders about their business, market trends, growth strategies, and what's ahead. Today, we have Zach Barney, co-founder and CEO of Mobley. So, Zach, thanks so much for joining me today. I'm excited to dive into your story and the incredible momentum Mobley is building.
No problem, Sarah. Happy to be here.
Before we dive into strategy and market trends, I'd love to hear just about your journey and the vision behind Mobley. So, could you walk me through your journey pre-Mobley to founding the company? And what were some of the moments or gaps you noticed that really made you think, we need to build this platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always been a startup guy. That's what I've found myself called to do. Like right out of school, I joined a two-person startup, literally me and the CEO in an executive suite in this tiny little colonial business park, building out a company. Did that for 3 years and did 3 or 4 others as their hire number one or sales hire number one. I just really like building. I like figuring out problems, and I like the risk and the high reward, the low potential for a high reward. I've just always kind of gambled with my career a little bit that way. And I think that comes from just my upbringing. I'm the oldest of 8 children. My father is a CFO, played it very, very safe. And as a result, we never had a lot of money. We were never homeless. We were never destitute, but we certainly were on the lower end of the spectrum when it came to wealth. And I just am really competitive with myself, really aggressive with my dreams and ambitions. And I just wanted to make sure that, that I built something that has a legacy. So the best way to do that is startups. Did a lot of that for a while. I took a detour, got recruited over to some later stage companies where I worked for 5 or 6 years running sales teams. And it was really that experience that got me thinking about building what is now Mobley. Mobley is the system of record for event and field marketing. You think about HubSpot and Marketo and how they service digital marketers, and you think of Outreach and SalesLoft and Gong and how they service BDRs and SDRs. There's nothing really bridging that gap for field marketing. They still use spreadsheets and duct tape and paper clips. And that's unfortunate because they represent close to 30% of all marketing spent, by far the biggest bucket. And I experienced that firsthand, going to a lot of conferences and trade shows and not having near the level of clear attribution or ROI that we did with any other lead channel, even though we had all the, the touchy-feelies like, oh, this was a great event, we should definitely do it again. And then 6 weeks later, nothing came from it. So I started digging in and realized, okay, the biggest contributor to this lack of clear ROI and attribution is there is no system to do the work. It's a very, very manual process that people just suck at it. It takes them way more time. And as a result, leads fall through the cracks. So I recruited my best friend of 30 years. We grew up together. He's a biz dev product type person. And I asked him if he wanted to start a startup with me with this in mind. And we've always wanted to work together, but knew that we had to have the right idea. He had no conviction in what we're building. He wasn't convinced at all. And that's largely because he doesn't have a sales background. So he said, I do want to work with you. You must see something that I don't. So let's go do the product thing and actually interview a bunch of marketers and see what they say. And we did. We interviewed 30 companies and 29 of the 30 said, please build this. We will buy it. That got him the conviction he needed. And we started cranking away, building out the first couple of versions of the product while we were still gainfully employed. And then the traction was so good that January 23 is when we officially incorporated and I went full time. Is that long-winded
Awesome.
enough of an answer for you, Sarah?
I love that. No, that's great. And can you tell us about kind of what Mobley does in the simplest terms? Like walk me through
Yeah.
how it actually functions.
Yeah, think of when you go to a conference or a trade show, as an exhibitor, you're typically stuck with paying $1,000 to rent a badge scanner. That might be an app for your phone, it might be a physical device, but it's a different process each and every time. And that doesn't integrate with any of your core systems of record because you're not the customer. The event host is the customer of that technology. Mobile gets rid of the need to do any of that. It's a universal platform where every single person on your team can have the same app they use to capture leads wherever they are. They can snap a photo of a badge or a business card, type in somebody's name and company name, and Mobley enriches 20 plus fields of contact information for that lead and pushes it directly to the CRM, all within a couple of minutes time. So you have just a clear, repeatable process that everybody knows how to do that works for dinners, giant events like Dreamforce and Money 2020, and everything in between. Same exact process every time to get your leads fully enriched into the CRM as quick as possible.
It's amazing. And I'm assuming the people who are out at these conferences or events or dinners, that they could snap the information since it's going direct to the CRM. Even somebody back at the office could see that and start reaching out if needed, right?
Yeah, I think what's super powerful about what we're building is when you're doing an event where you know you're going to have dozens, if not hundreds, of your ICP there, you want to make sure that the process is followed. And if you rely on, unfortunately, your salespeople or somebody to do it manually, it's just not going to be followed to the degree that you need it to be followed so that you can build a predictable muscle around your event function. So we systematize and simplify that whole process to where it's less work on the heads of the salespeople, yet better data, quicker, better attribution. So they love it since they're not having to manually transcribe anything. Their bosses love it because they can actually see what in the world the reps are doing when they're out in the field. And the marketing team loves it because they have a clear line of sight into how the event did and what our end results are from it down the line.
That's amazing. So, starting a company in a competitive space like sales and tech takes usually more than just a good idea. What can you share with me about, core values or guiding principles that have really shaped how you've built Mobley from day one?
Yeah, ideas are a dime a dozen. And anybody who thinks that their idea is going to make them rich they're lying to themselves. It's the execution of the idea. And for us, there were a couple of things that have really helped us be successful. Number one would be what the late author Chet Holmes calls pig-headed discipline and determination. Like, we knew we had to build this. We burned all the boats. We left high-paying jobs. Chris and I combined have 11 children. So, we have responsibilities. We're not young college kids with nothing to lose. We have a lot to lose. And this has to work or else we're in financial ruin. And for better or worse, that's what's caused us to perform, is just that determination to run through every possible wall because they keep getting put in front of us and we run through it anyways. On top of that, I would say the fact that we did deep market research before writing a single line of code just helped validate things and not, have that expensive problem of creating something that people don't have a problem for. So just constantly having our ear to the ground of what the market is saying, what people are looking for, what problems they're experiencing, and building for that instead of what's in our head. That's been the other thing that's helped us be really successful. If I were to add a third, I would say people. Like, we wouldn't be where Mobley is today. And we're still getting started. We're much smaller than we will be in a year or 2 years, 3 years. But we have one of the most amazing teams I've ever worked with because we've just invested in them and allowed them to shine and made sure that they knew that this is not the Zach show or the Zach and Chris show. It's the Mobley show, and everybody's a part of that.
Yeah, that's super important, building that culture right from the start for sure. So, zooming out a bit, I want to look at the broader market that you're operating in. And
Sure.
so, what's happening in the B2B event space right now that makes this the perfect time for a solution like Mobley?
So the big thing is post-COVID, events are at an all-time high. Event attendance is at an all-time high. Volume is at an all-time high. People realized how much they need face-to-face interactions, not just for business purposes, but also for mental sanity. And now there's this huge wave of AI, and people have AI fatigue. They don't know what to believe. They don't know what's real. When they see, all of this computer generated advertising and selling online, one way for the seller to stick out is by going and meeting that person face to face and showing, hey, real person, real human. I care about you. I've taken the time and made the effort to come meet you where you're at. And this is what our relationship's going to be like. So that's a big thing. The other thing I would say, events on a macro level, there's a shift toward more frequent, smaller events versus spending $100,000, $200,000 to sponsor a big giant industry show. That's just not as personal, and you're not getting as much quality as you would, spending $10,000 on a really, really nice catered dinner with 50 of your top prospects.
Okay. And what types of companies or legacy tools are you seeing kind of as your main competition out there?
Yeah, I would say our main competition is just the status quo practice of using whatever the event provides or sells to you. There are a handful of what I would call adjacent competitors that do a little bit of what we do, but not exactly what we do. One of our key differentiators is our data enrichment process is the best on the planet. I will go head to head with anybody on that because not only do we have 20 data provider partners, but we have a team of 12 full-time live human being analysts that are helping to train our models to read badges and images more clearly, but they're also checking for recent job changes and promotions and things like that, that a scraped database that's static sitting on the back end isn't going to have. People change jobs a lot, and we enrich the data in real time with a real human because we're not relying on somebody to be up to date on updating LinkedIn or anything like that. So that's one big thing. The second one is there are a handful of platforms that are trying to do what we do, but they don't enrich data at all. Instead, they have to tie into the events API, which costs extra money. So they're paying for that solution, plus they're paying for the API, essentially doubling their cost. And it only works in the case of the event having an API that they are willing to expose to a third party. Might work 30-40% of the time, and the other 50-60-70% of the time you have to figure out a different process. Whereas with Mobley, 100% event agnostic, you can use us anywhere and we're going to work because we aren't dependent on anybody else.
Right. And are there any market shifts or challenges that are kind of keeping you up at night? Things you think might impact your momentum or reshape the category at all?
I would say just the geopolitical climate with tariffs and tensions between different countries. That's been the biggest thing. Like we're still performing, we're still growing and hitting our numbers, but we have had deals with companies that are either in like logistics or manufacturing that they've had to put things on ice because they just don't know what the economic climate is going to be for their industry, and they just can't move forward with us if they don't know if they're going to be around or they don't know if they're going to have a way to pay for us in 3 months. So that's the biggest challenge, is just making sure that we stay nimble enough and broad enough to where even if one section of the economy is severely impacted, we still have the ability to make money and grow as a company.
Yeah, so that actually moves perfectly into this next section I want to talk about of how you're actually reaching customers. And so, what channels or tactics have been most effective for your growth, and how did you come about picking those?
Well, given that we are an event tech platform, you could probably guess that events work out really well for us. About 40% of our revenue comes from events. A lot of what we do is we go to events and exhibit at different marketing shows, but we also go walk the show floor and find the events that our customers are going to, because the people that are exhibiting to their left and their right are trying to sell to the exact same people, so they probably have a use case for us. So that's one. The second would be inbound, and I'm just going to bucket all that together, which is also close to 40% of our revenue. Inbound forms coming from social, coming from organic, coming from paid ads. We do get a lot of that. So that's 80% of our revenue. The other 20% is a mix of partnerships and outbound. But ideally, given how small we are, we only have 3 full-time salespeople. I don't want them doing a lot of outbound right now. There's enough low-hanging fruit that we just need to drive more traffic. So our focus this year is driving more inbound leads, going to more events, and then setting up a repeatable partner program.
And with many early stage founders, there's this balancing act, right, between scaling and quality. How do you ensure you're growing fast without sacrificing the experience?
I would say that's a really, really good question, because I think everybody messes up once or twice in the early stages of their business. For us, it's all about talent and people that are experienced enough, have enough gray hair to know, hey, I probably should be a little bit more thoughtful and not just fly by the seat of my pants on this. We want to move fast, but let's not, ruin the company because of that speed. So I really do, for us at least, Sarah. I think it comes down to the level of talent we have, being smart enough to know that that we don't just move fast and break things too much.
And what part of your go-to-market playbook still feels a little bit like a mystery or puzzle where you're still testing,
Yeah.
still learning, and maybe even struggling to unlock the next level?
I mean, I'm ashamed to say this being a recovering VP of sales, but we don't have our sales playbook written yet. Like, we don't have the core metrics. We have general ideas of what things need to look like. We have general templates for our phone and email outreach. But if somebody started today as a new sales rep, I would not be able to say, this is what you need to do to be successful. We're still figuring that out. And it's something that we're a little bit behind on, if you were to ask my opinion. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so, of course, there's roadblocks and challenges that come to play for every company, really,
Yeah.
that's growing. So, what are two or three of the biggest internal bottlenecks that slow your team down today? And how are you working to resolve them?
As an early stage company with venture capital backing us, it's always a balance of, hey, we think what we should do this one thing, but doing it increases our burn. And we're going to run out of money quicker if it doesn't work out, and we're going to look kind of stupid. So you have to take some risks. And I would say the biggest challenge is making sure that you're calculating the risk factor accurately and not putting yourself in a position that you can't come back off of it if it doesn't work out. That's a big one. I would also say just killing your culture by making a bad hire and then not doing something about it.
And so now looking back, has there ever been a moment that something didn't work the way you expected? And what did that teach you about either your customer or your product?
Yeah. So in the early days of selling our platform, Chris, my co-founder, and I did all of the sales. And then when we hired our first sales team about a year and a half ago, we told them, hey, we don't want to do pilots. We don't want to do trials of our platform. If you've got somebody that's ready to go, instead of doing a pilot, sell them an annual contract and then just give them an opt-out clause to where if it doesn't work, they've got 90 days to back out or whatever. And that puts the skin, in the game on our end so that they know we have to deliver. We're not just going to take their money and run. Unfortunately, salespeople take the path of least resistance, and it turned into every sales call being, oh yeah, and by the way, if it doesn't work out for you, you can just cancel in like 60 days, and like setting ourselves up for failures. So we got rid of that option. We stopped paying commissions until people are past the opt-out period, and it's been significantly more smooth.
That's smart for sure. What's something you know you should be doing, but you don't have the time, the team, or really the clarity yet to tackle it yet?
Building that sales playbook, that's going to be number one for me. I would also say focusing more on branding, just being out there and creating more content.
Okay. And so now I kind of want to shift again to the year ahead. What are the top 2 to 3 goals you've set for the next 12 months?
The biggest one is to quadruple our revenue from last year. So that's where all of our sites are set on, and we're definitely trending to being able to hit that number. The second one, which is a little bit of a crossover, would be our product roadmap, really evolving ourselves beyond the lead capture and enrichment app to being a full platform for event marketers. So there are a lot of features that make us more robust that we're focused on executing and building out before the end of Q3 so that we can realize the uplift in deal size before the end of the year.
Okay. And are there any kind of bold bets or big swings that you're planning right now, whether it's launching a new feature, expanding to new markets, anything coming up like that?
In terms of big bets, I would say no. Like all of the bets over the next year are pretty calculated, low risk bets, but that's just because we're in that phase where we're gearing up for our next fundraise, and we have a lot of clarity around what we're building and what we need to do. Generally, I am a fan of taking big swings. I think that mindset is what makes companies great. But in the immediate future, we don't have any big things like that. It's more stick to the roadmap, get it done fast, and knock some sales out of the park so that we can take us to the next level.
Yeah. If everything goes to plan, what will Mobley look like 1 year from now? And what is something that you will be most proud of achieving?
The thing I'd be most proud of achieving a year from now is providing jobs for more people to support their families. Right now, we've got 31, 32 employees. A year from now, we'll probably be up to 50, maybe 55. So if we are providing steady jobs and healthy income and relieving that stress taking it off the back of another 24 people, that would be a huge win for me.
I love that. I love that a lot, actually. What's one piece of advice that you'd offer to other founders navigating early stage growth, especially ones that are wanting to, stand out in
Yeah.
kind of a fast moving market like sales tech?
Can I cheat and give you two?
Yeah, for sure.
Start as early as you possibly can. Everybody thinks it's easier to start a company later in life because you have more experience and money, which is on that side true, but your tolerance for risk tends to go significantly down. So while your ceiling is super low in terms of, or I guess you're not your ceiling when your personal needs are super low, that's when it makes the most sense to go take risk and learn. The second one would be don't run out of money. Like don't spend your money before you have it, and don't run out of money. If you've got 5 months of runway left, it's too late. You should already be fundraising because things never go according to plan.
That's great advice. And if anyone wants to learn more about Mobley or get in touch with you, can you share where the best place is?
LinkedIn and our website. Getmobley.com would be the website. And then I'm really easy to find on LinkedIn. If you just search for Zach Barney, I am the one that has a cell phone emoji in front of my first name. So that's a really easy way to find me.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to Mo's Market Pulse. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave us a comment, and join us again to hear more insights from leaders coming up on future episodes. Zach, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.